Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Highlight Reel. This is about the third, maybe fourth podcast I've attempted to make, but I really think this one is going to last because I have some good ideas for it. So first, let me explain the idea behind it. I just finished reading the book, Confessions of a 40-something Floof Up, and I'm going to say floof because, number one, it's funny, and number two, I don't want to say the actual word. So, there's a show called Not Dead Yet, which is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out, and it's based on this book. Excuse me. Very loosely based, like, names and a couple of other things are the same as they are in the book. But I really identified with the book because she's talking about how she's at a point in her life and nothing is as she thought it would be. And that's pretty, I really identify with that. She thought it was because she was unmarried and didn't have kids yet, but I think when she realized, her friends started talking about her podcast that she started, and when she talked about that, they didn't realize it was her that was the host of the podcast. And so they were just like, oh, I really identify with this, even though they're married and have kids. They're like, everything's not perfect. Everything hasn't turned out the way we thought that it would. And there's these ridiculously high expectations put on us. And then we see everyone's just like little glimpses into their life, and we think that they have everything perfect, and everything's perfect in their life. So I was like, you know what? I'm inspired by this to do like a little bit of a behind the scenes peek at what life is really like. And I figured some people could probably identify with this. So I am not going to apologize for the way I look. I'm not going to worry about my hair being frizzy or not having makeup on because that's kind of the whole point of these videos. I'm also making this into a podcast that I'm going to put on Spotify. So if you want to just listen, you can listen. If you want to watch, it's going to be on YouTube. And so starting out, I will introduce myself for those of you that don't know. My name is Bethany, and we now live in Phoenix, Arizona, which right off the bat, definitely not what I would have thought I would be saying. I grew up in New York State, in the capital region of New York State, not the city. Guys, the city is like this big, and then there's this big of the rest of the state. I have this little fox guy that I made crocheted, and I'm like fidgeting with him. I grew up there. I spent 31 years there. I dealt with the winters. I went to school in the Adirondacks, which was, talk about winters. And I grew up in a certain type of culture, and I went to Bible school, which I'll talk about at some point, and definitely at the time I thought it was what I expected it to be, what I wanted it to be, and everything. And looking back, I'm not saying it's all bad, but there were definitely some interesting things and baggage that came from that. But anyway, moving on. So we live in Arizona now. Oh, well, we moved. My husband and I met in New York State, and I'll probably tell that story at some point. Again, it was different than at the time. It was different than I thought it would be. But then looking back, it happened almost exactly like I actually had a vision when I was like maybe, I'm not sure exactly how old I was, 14 or 15, and I had it several times of how I was going to meet my husband. And I didn't realize till we had been dating for like, I don't know, 6 months maybe. That's exactly how it happened. So, yeah. And then we started trying pretty quickly, pretty soon after we got married. We both wanted kids. We talked about adopting, but we wanted to have biological kids first, and we knew that there were some issues in the family, so we're like, we'll start trying now, and then probably it won't happen for like a year. And here we are. We've been married 13 years, and we do not have any biological children. So that's been a struggle, and I will probably talk about that some more, because I know that there's a lot of people that can identify and struggle and have struggled with the same thing. And even if you ended up having biological children or adopting, it doesn't make all of the years that you struggled go away. So we do have an adopted son, and we adopted him 2 years ago. That whole thing happened way differently than I thought it would. You have your plan, and then things change, like things happen, and you just kind of go with the flow. But so he was adopted 2 years ago. He's been with us for 4.5. So he came when he was like 5.5-ish. And now he's about to turn 10, which is, I can't even believe that. We did foster care, which was also not in the plan. And I will talk about that at some point. And if you guys have any questions about any of this, I'm a pretty open book. I know that a lot of people struggle with things like this, so I don't want to put up a front that, oh, everything's perfect and I'm fine and dandy with things the way they are. So if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to ask. Another thing is that we haven't really pursued any sort of fertility treatment because we've already been through a lot of loss with foster care, and I don't know if I could handle more loss also, or possibly facing more loss, because I know that's a possibility with IVF and stuff like that. But also my health took a turn in 2012, 2 years after we got married. At some point, I got bitten by a tick and did not realize. There was also other things going on, emotional issues that I have, which I'll also talk about later. But, so a lot of it has to do with my health. I'm like, I can't deal with, feeling like this and potentially trying to, inject hormones into me at the same time. So that's just something, at least for now, we've decided we're going to be starting to probably talk to doctors about it soon. So I'm maybe a little more open to the idea. We've tried some things, which I won't really go into right now, but anyway, moving past that, we have 3 dogs, which I'm a huge animal person, but I always thought maybe 2 max, and then probably a cat. But right now we have 2 dogs. We do not have any cats because both our cats passed away, which was also something that was unexpected, completely unexpected. One was hit by a car, and the other was killed by a dog that we took in. And again, I'll talk about that at another time. So let's see what else about us. Met in New York, moved to Florida initially first. The sun's really good for my chronic fatigue and stuff. I had really bad neurological issues because of it, and I didn't get treated for the Lyme. I had basically a really bad, where I thought I was dying, panic attack in 2012, and that's what set this all off. And then proceeded to go back to the hospital like once a month for the next 2 months. And then I one time called the paramedics to our house because I thought my heart was stopping. So, and they did so many blood tests. They did EKGs and a stress test, and all this stuff, and the only thing that came back borderline was Lyme. And I looked up and I had like there's like 30 symptoms, and I had about 25 of them. So I didn't get treated until 2017. I found a really good clinic, like literally world-renowned clinic in New York, in Del Mar. And shout out Strom Center. And we had to pay for it out of pocket. It was ridiculously expensive, and we didn't really have extra money at that time, but we figured it out. And I was on very heavy treatment at that point for 5 months. I was taking 15 different medications and supplements. I was so sick, like, because it was all coming out of my body. I had anaplasmosis at that point, which is like an infection of the blood, and it's very dangerous. I was having seizures at that point. I think they're called non-clonic seizures, where you maintain, what's the word? You don't pass out. You're aware of what's going on. So I had that. And now today I still have after effects from it. I have tremors. I have shakiness. I guess those are kind of the same thing. I have brain fog. I have chronic fatigue, and sometimes achy joints. Like, people were always like, oh, do you have achy joints? And I'm like, achy joints is the least of my complaints. How about everything that's going on in here? I was having major panic attacks. So moving to Florida helped a lot. I finished up my treatment when we were there, and I was able to actually nanny about 40 hours a week, which was just amazing because I could barely handle part-time before that when we were still in New York. So the weather did absolute wonders for my mental state, my body, everything. So that was great. However, the job that my husband was supposed to get there fell through. So we were there for 7 months. We lived with his parents, and obviously not what I expected or planned. And all our New York adventures, none of them are what we would have planned for ourselves. Like, I'll go into more detail. I have to have like an episode about each of these things or something, because there's a lot of detail to go into. But so we were not in Virginia. We were in Florida for 7 months, and see, I'm not gonna even edit any of this, because part of the like thing is, nothing's perfect. We're just seeing people's highlight reels on Instagram and on social media, and we're not seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. So if I like stumble and stutter over my words, I'm just gonna leave it, because it happens. So finally, my husband got a job at like his dream place he wanted to go to right out of college, but it was in Virginia, and he had moved up to New York to be with me, so he couldn't work there. And it had a bunch of like very low paying jobs. He has an engineering degree and a math degree, and he had a bunch of low paying jobs, and the last one in New York was like engineering adjacent. Like, you had to know engineering to work there, but it wasn't an engineering job. definitely didn't pay what engineering jobs did. So he waited for 7 years after he graduated from college, and I'm sure that was not in his plan. But, and then he finally, everyone was like praying and sending us good wishes and stuff for him to get it. And finally, we found out that he got it. So then we moved to Virginia, and then we stayed there. He worked at the shipyard, his dream job, for 5 years. We lived there for almost 6. And then he got, I'll tell the whole story at some point of this, but he got a job offer in Phoenix, Arizona. And so we moved here, just south, well, not just south, about an hour south in bad traffic, maybe 40 minutes in good traffic, south of Phoenix. And he's working for Honeywell Aerospace. Yes, the same Honeywell that makes air filters and thermostats. So we moved here in December. We're just settling in, getting to know the area, getting to know our neighbors. We live in a new build, so lots of people moving in. Not very many people in our direct neighborhood yet, but we found people like a couple streets over, and there's one of my puppies in the background. But so now we live in Arizona. I had a part-time nanny job that it like fit it checked all the boxes, and it was flexible. My son goes to school, so I was going to work during those hours, and it was like the ages I wanted. I could get my baby/toddler fix in and everything like that. And then I babysat for them twice and never heard from them again. So that fell through. And I've been like kind of having a little bit of a midlife crisis on what to do. What should I do next? And then I applied to a nanny job like a few days ago that was, I forget how many days a week. I think it was 2 days a week, but it was 2 kids. And I was like, that's a lot, but I'm going to apply to it. And heard nothing back, but the next day I had checked to see if the lady had answered me yet, and I had a message from another person that wants me to potentially be a nanny for 3 days a week for one child, and that's a 5 or 6 month old baby, which I'm very excited about because I get my baby fix. So I go on Saturday to meet them, and I haven't, except for my husband, I haven't told anybody because I'm afraid it's going to fall through again. But hopefully, fingers crossed, this one will actually work out. So that's what's happening now. I will probably go into some more detail, but this is just like starting out and kind of telling you what the basis of the podcast is, with just talking about the real stuff, the hard stuff, the good, the bad, the ugly, as I said on YouTube. But like, I just want to be real, because I know a lot of people look at those highlight reels and are like, oh, why doesn't my life look like that? And the book is really good if you want to read the book. Obviously, there's some not trigger warnings, but there's adult language, seeing as the name of the book has adult language in it. And there's a little bit of other stuff. But it's just good because it kind of is like, you realize no one's got it together. Like, we think other people have it together, but everyone's just figuring it out as they go. So that's kind of what this is going to be about too, and some of the stuff that we've been through. And we say never a dull moment in our house, and that means the good, the bad, the everything. Like, there's never a dull moment, no matter what is going on. And so, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing some stuff about our life, and I hope you identified, and I hope that I'm going to try to make a list of all the stuff I want to talk about. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'm going to try to do this once a week. Well, hopefully that'll actually happen. Okay, talk to you guys later. Bye.